Turnovers, like I haven't really been prone to turnovers in my career, especially like, the timely turnovers, where, I've, like I told y'all before, I'm really, I've been on some great teams, my whole career where a lot of them were, offensive driven, and like, playing for Coach Day where, we're taking shots and then all these, and then, like being on this team, where, we're more full everywhere, where it's offense, defense, and special teams. But defense is making a bunch of plays. So, this year was a step for me where like I didn't have to be Superman all the time, and I'm still growing in that. You know what I'm saying? So, I appreciate my teammates for taking a lot of pressure, off of my plate, but also, they do know that I can make those plays. So, I'm appreciative of that, of them having that perspective. And I feel like I've grown, in that way of like, taking what's there, in ways where, I would have taken a shot there or just, take care of the ball some other ways. But, I just seen some growth in my footwork, in the pocket, trusting my guys, staying in the pocket, not just running around, but, staying strong and firm. So I think I made a step in that area as well. But, always things to improve, and I'll do that.
D'Amico told us that Tank's doing well and he's looking forward to seeing him on the field next season. I know y'all are really close. How much are you looking forward to having him back and like just kind of reflecting on everything he's gone through to maybe get to that point?
Yeah, Tank is a brother of mine. Somebody who's like blood to me, and to see what he's gone through the last 2 years has been heartbreaking. And he's been through a lot, but I know he's grown a lot as a person and as a young man, especially as a man of God. So I'm proud of him, and just the smile he continues having on his face is contagious. And I just think for him to being here every day, put in the work, and put his best foot forward, in some situations that were out of his control, I think is amazing, to see him do that. So I'm super proud of him, and I can't wait to get him on the field. Like, y'all know the connection we have, and, I know he's getting his number one back, so he's happy about that. And I'm happy for him to get Uno back. So, we're going to be coming back trim, and I can't wait to get my brother back on the field. And I think, our connection, hopefully our chemistry pick right back up where we left off.
Going back to the turnovers, how much of it do you think was mental versus physical?
What do you mean?
Like, was there the word rattled was used? Did you feel comfortable out there?
Yeah, I feel like I'm comfortable. There's plays where things happen. Where you don't necessarily like your body kind of just reacts. It's like instincts. But I feel like those things happen, and I came back out in the second half, and I thought I'd play well. I thought I moved the ball. Thought we did better in that first drive, and then just didn't punch it in, which sucks. But I think once I flushed it and let it go, because that stuff does happen. You do unintentionally or intentionally, things do affect you. But I think I responded in the best way I could have, and I stand firm in that, and I don't ever try to move, too fast or too slow, and I try to be where my feet are. So, I thought I did a decent job of that. But, I look at my career, I've had that a million times, and it's going to get blown up because it was a divisional game, and rightfully so. Like, it's, one of the biggest games of my career, and I didn't have the best day. But I could look back at other games of my career where I did show up, and I know that I had more of those than I had yesterday. So, I'm going to look forward to the next opportunity I get.
CJ, working those opportunities being with Nick Caley, do you feel like y'all can build on something, Nick Caley?
Yeah, definitely. I love Kels. I think, there's growth in our relationship. There's growth in, his ability to call plays, growth in, D'Amico trusted him. So, whatever, our coaches decide, and I love Kels, and I'm rocking with him, however long he's going to be here.
A fierce competitor, and I know that you really hate to lose. How much will yesterday's game drive you in the offseason to come back in next season with a different mindset?
I wouldn't say it'll make me have a different mindset, but it'll just make my mindset I do have even more tenacious and focused, and just my vision to be clear. And I think my dad used to always tell me growing up, like when bad things just happen in sports or whatever it was, like injury or whatever, he'd always say just add fuel to the fire. And so I'm gonna take that mindset of just like whatever is gonna happen in this off season, or in what people are saying, whatever, I just add fuel to the fire, makes the story a little sweeter, and I just I'm excited to see where my career goes, and my play. And I know this ain't the end of CJ Stroud. This ain't the end of my career. There's, like I said, the sun came up this morning. I got a lot more ball to play left, and I'm excited to do that. So, I'm just, add fuel to the fire and, just continue to be motivated. And, this ain't going to be the last time people going to count me out or count me in. And so it's all about, how God views me, how my teammates, my family, my friends, and how I view myself. And I'm going to continue to do that in a positive way.
CJ, minus the last game, you all did take steps throughout the season. But where do you feel like you all can even take another step to get to where you all want to get to?
I think just like the small things, like the communication things, getting out the huddle, just when the game gets hard, making it more simple, and I just think doing the ordinary things time and time over and over again, because, that's what, these games come down to. Being in the playoffs, in 6 games, and winning the 3 out of the 6 is like, those 3 games we did the ordinary better time in, time out, because things are going to happen. Like, turnovers are going to happen. They're going to make plays. We're going to make plays. But it's all about getting back to the ordinary, getting back to what we're great at. And I think that's something that we could take a step in is just, making sure we're doing the ordinary things over and over and over again and not being bored by that.
CJ, they said the business side always takes care of itself if the football side's going well. How much ideally would you like to be here for a very long time and you're eligible for extension at this time?
Yes, it's not in my control. I did what I did on the field, the last 3 years, and I thought I started off my career in a very great way. I'm 24, got a lot of ball left ahead of me, and I think I look back, I look at my career, and I'm doing a lot of things that early in my career that a lot of people haven't done in a long time. So I'm grateful for that, and I know it's not just me, it's my teammates, it's my coaches, it's the organization. So, but whatever God has for me, I don't think. Whatever open door he has, no man can close. Whatever closed door he has for me, no man can open. So I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm going to just, rock with that. But my job is done now in that light. I can only just move forward, and, but I want to be here as long as I can. I love the city of Houston. I'm just, I'm crushed, and I don't want to be emotional, but just just how hopeful we were, to go farther and, for it to be on my plate, for me not to, step up, it really hurts me. And I just, I wish it didn't go that way, but my intent was never that. My intent is always, to go out on ball and, play as best as I can, and it didn't happen. But, I know that I can do that. So I just hope, this city and this organization and my teammates, and I know my teammates will, but I hope, everybody gives me a shot to do it again.
Last 3 on Sam Leonard, sorry.
CJ, you had 4 rookies make significant contributions to your offense this year with Woody, Tay, Jalen, Jaden. Just with them having a full offseason going into next year, how much can that help them grow and be, contributors to this offense? And where do you want to see them grow kind of going into next year?
Yeah, I think I look at my rookie year not having an off season, get into everything. I think the best thing they can do is, and I told them this, is get away for a month or however long they feel is necessary, and then, get back to work. But I think that ability to get away will, get them, to be able to refocus when they do come back. And I think, all the experiences, like my rookie year going to the divisional round, I learned a lot. I think for them to be able to do the same thing is they're going to learn a lot, and they're going to grow, and they're going to continue to get better, and they're going to have areas that they need to get better in even this next year. And I'm excited to, take another step with them, and I'm just, really, really proud of those guys for what they did this year.
CJ, as you turn the page to next season, and I know it's still pretty fresh, if you could name the chapter of this point in your career, what would it be and why?
That's a great question. I can tell you, I would probably, give me like 10 seconds. I don't know, bro. I can't come up with like a chapter name, but all I know is, man, I'm a firm believer, God doesn't waste anything. The Bible says in Romans 8:28, all things work together good for those who love God, who are called to his purpose. I know I'm called to his purpose. I know I have a calling on my life, and I'm going to stand firm in that. And I know that this is going to work out good. The pain, God's not going to waste. The suffering, God's not going to waste. The interceptions, God's not going to waste. And I'm also not going to waste it, and I'm going to put in the work to get those things figured out and get better. So, and on top of that, man, I have a lot of positive things going on in my career as well. So I'm not going to just focus on a negative, and I'm a pretty positive person. I'm keep a smile on my face, be joyful, be happy, put my best foot forward. But I don't really have a chapter word, but I would just say, man, Romans 8:28, all things work together. All, not some, all.
CJ, I know that in that locker room is a tight brotherhood, man. Y'all all have love for each other. But you and Will forever be connected and joined because of the way that you all came into the NFL. What was it like, to be able to talk with him after the game on yesterday, and what were some of the positive affirmations that he gave?
Will's my brother, man. We came in together, been through everything together in our NFL careers, and he's somebody who I have a deep love for. Somebody that I care about his family, he cares about mine, and just having that moment in the locker room yesterday, and we didn't really talk about anything specific. We just talked as brothers like we always do. And, it wasn't just him pouring into me. He shared some things with me that I didn't even know. And I'm just really grateful, that we've had each other to lean on in some areas, especially in our faith. Some areas where, like, we're still very young in our faith and still, newborn Christians, and we're still trying to figure this out. Not perfect in any ways, but, we're both trying our best, to be, lights and shining bright for the Lord, for His glory, and also, for each other. And I think, we've been able to lean on each other in that. And, so I'm just grateful that I have somebody in the same notoriety, the same fame, the same, whatever you want to say. Like, we have a lot of similarities in the status that we have. And we also, have a lot of similarities in the faith that we walk by, in the backgrounds as well. So, to be able to have somebody to compare that to, and to have somebody able to walk through that with, man, it's been grateful. And I'm just grateful to God that I have a brother like that.
You mentioned something that was mentioned a lot this season with the offense, and it was the play calling, the urgency. And is that not something, like, forgive my ignorance, that can be fixed in the middle of the season? Is that not possible? How do you go about changing that? You mentioned that it's foundational and that it's simple and it's important.
There's a lot of things that can be fixed. I think that's an area that, we tried our best. I think when, you have injuries, you have, different things, and then you have a new system, you're still trying to find your identity throughout the year. So, like, what we were running in the playoffs wasn't what we were running in week 1. It's a whole different offense because it just changes. But, like, hopefully around that week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8 period, you start to find that identity. I think we did that. But yeah, I think those things need to be fixed, and they'll be addressed. And it's not just on Kels. So I want to snip that in the bud right now. It's on me as well. It's on our everybody. It's not just me and him. It's everybody. But it starts with me, and then it goes to him. It starts with everybody. So it starts with us too. So I'm not going to just put it on him, or I don't want everybody just to put it. I'll raise my hand and say me. So those things will be fixed. And we'll be able to be better from that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
So we'll do state.
Okay, so, yeah, just, yeah, so your card is gonna have all of it on it. That's what I'll be looking for later.
No.
Yeah, just something a little.